Howdy YouTube, today we're reviewing the 2016 Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix merchandise and the race itself. In particular, we're taking a look at the various team teddy bears. Kind of a silly thing if I'm honest, but anyway, thought I would use this opportunity to talk about the actual Grand Prix weekend itself. I think the Melbourne Grand Prix is the best Grand Prix of the year. Why? Because there's 4 days of track activity: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I myself was there on the Friday because that's my favourite day. You get to see a lot of the F1s with the 2 practice sessions. You get the V8s, GT, all the support categories, speed comparison and all that. And in particular, you get to see some cool merchandise like the Ferrari bear. Obviously, if you've seen the race, you'll know that Sebastian Vettel ended up coming third. He really impressed me off the start, did an excellent job, very competitive, no doubt about that. What is really good is previous seasons, Mercedes have dominated, which they're entitled to do, but it's good to see Ferrari appear to have closed the gap. I think the sport really needs that battle between 2 manufacturers. It's good to see Rosberg and Hamilton go at it, but it's nice to see other teams up there as well. Ferrari finally, I think, have got their act together. Vettel really disappointing, I guess, in the sense that he never makes a mistake until closing on Hamilton last couple of laps of the Grand Prix, and he really let himself down there. But hopefully that battle will continue as the season progresses. In terms of this bear, it is like a $40 bear, which is quite expensive and a little ridiculous when you think about it. They do have like a giant version of this, which was $10 more if you're so inclined. It is current. It's got all the nice new sponsors and everything like that. So that is the Sebastian Vettel Ferrari bear. The Kimi Fire was kind of cool as well. Definitely made things exciting. 4th place for the Grand Prix, of course, we had none other than Daniel Ricciardo, the Aussie home favourite hero. Certainly a great driver. Red Bull, really disappointing. Normally they have really good merchandise. I actually love their car this year. I think it is one of the nicest looking cars. Very impressed with that. Their merchandise, though, is very expensive and kind of crappy, as seen by this mini Red Bull bear. First of all, it's old. You can see it's Infinity Red Bull Racing, so that's last year's bear. Obviously, the size is a fraction smaller than a lot of the other team bears, and the price of this was $30, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So Red Bull, obviously, to pay for the development on their Tag Heuer Renault engine, are milking as much as they can from their fans. I do think the bear is nice. It's got some cool pockets in its race suit. Why, I don't know. The actual team itself, again, Ricciardo did a really good job. I think he could have achieved a little bit more had the strategy been a little bit more effective and efficient. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Hopefully next year we get Aussie winning the Grand Prix. That would be absolutely incredible. I think that's what it needs to really grow in Australia at least. But certainly, hopefully that car, the engine development on that improves a lot. I'm going to take this opportunity to also shout out Jolyon Palmer in the Renault. He did an incredibly good job holding off the 2 Toro Rossos in, I think, one of the worst cars on the grid. Don't forget that car was built to use a Mercedes engine, so the Renault in that isn't designed for that car, and yet it was super competitive today. I think they did a really good job. I think they're going to have a tough season, but certainly he was a very, very impressive standout of today's race. Next, we move to the McLaren Honda bear styling and profiling. This kind of a cool bear. I really like this. Again, McLaren I have a huge soft spot for. It is a ripper team. I think their car looks brilliant in the black colour scheme. It's a real big shame as well that Alonso was doing so well and then had that really epic crash. It's good to see him walk away unscathed from that, because he is, I think, the second best driver on the grid after Lewis Hamilton. He just hasn't had the luck on his side for the last few years, and part of that is his fault, part of that is the teams he's with. But definitely Honda seemed to have improved. Having said that, it was kind of weird. Jenson Button only at 15, I think, was quite disappointing. I expected a lot more from him, and hopefully that changes with future races. But certainly a cool teddy bear. Next up, we've got the Mercedes bear, which actually had a Michael Schumacher bear. Again, I guess this is like the tribute bear that they've got to help support him. It's a real shame what's happened to Shuey. And I guess that whole Mercedes comeback really didn't pan out too well. either. There's a man who had everything, every accomplishment, and really didn't do himself any favors by coming back with Mercedes. And now with that skiing accident, things are not looking great either. This bear's cheap. This was like $40. I say cheap. They're all fairly expensive, but cheaper than some of the other merchandise that they had there. So that's that one. And then last but not least, I'm going to bring in the giant Ford bear just to compare with the Formula One bears, which are quite big. The Ford bear is substantial in size. Now, Ford bear, what's this? Obviously Australian V8 supercars, Pro Drive Racing, which is your Chaz Mossett, Winterbottom, and Cam Waters. My favourite team, personally. I am a big Ford fan. Kind of a cool bear. I mean, it's neat. Frosty obviously winning the championship last year, so that gets reflected on the back. Ford didn't do too well at the Grand Prix. Normally, that's their race. Ford normally dominate at the V8 Supercar Challenge races, and they were a little bit of a letdown, if I'm completely honest. The cars as well, not getting the factory Ford sponsorship, means that they're in green and black colour scheme, which I think looks nice. And then you've got the super cheap auto car, which also looks kind of cool. But yeah, hopefully Ford can pick themselves up. I'd love them to win another Bathurst, another championship. I think that's good for the sport, especially too. Ford fans tend to be left high and dry most of the time with Holden dominating. But anyway, that's kind of cool. Overall, I was really happy with the Australian Grand Prix. I'm excited to see what happens next and where the sport goes and the season goes this year. Hopefully the teams can develop and catch up to Mercedes, if not surpass them. That way we get some competitive racing. The Australian Grand Prix, I think, was a big plus for me. I'm also going to just talk about qualifying because a lot of people have been really negative on the qualifying format. Personally, I loved it. It's the first time in a long time I've watched start to finish qualifying without looking away. Normally they go out, I look away, I do something else, I come back when there's 5 minutes left, because that's when all the action happens. With this one, you're constantly focusing because every minute, essentially, someone is getting eliminated. And it brings spotlight to a lot of the smaller teams who wouldn't get that attention otherwise. Like, for example, Renault, Haas, and Marussia, they show on TV at least footage of those cars as they're trying to get a time fast enough to not be eliminated. I thought it added a little bit of excitement and action. Battling the clock, I think, is a really cool dynamic. Personally, I think they should add points for the practice sessions and then maybe a point for pole position as well, so there's a bit more incentive for the teams. We'll see what happens with the new qualifying system moving forward. Personally, I liked it, and I was a big fan of the Australian Grand Prix too. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this review on the 2016 Formula One, I guess, teddy bear collection and just the Grand Prix in general.